ECG Theo donated $100. I couldn't attend ESA in the end but still loving the event from home. Hyped to see a world record live. This donation can go towards whatever incentives the reader want.
So yeah, thank you for the donation, and I am Leonmachar, and I am going to be running Kalimba. So I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. So first we get a tiny bit of an introduction into the story that we kind of just smash through. The backstory is evil shaman wanted to kill the good shaman. We survived, but now we have to possess totems to come back to the top of the road and reclaim our good shaman spot.
The shaman lady, still in her spirit form.
So the gameplay is a puzzle platformer where we control 2 totems at the same time with the same buttons. So the start is fairly simple, basically a tutorialized version to get you familiar that you're actually moving 2 characters instead of 1. The difficulty slowly ramps up with some extra holes and whatnot. These spots over here, they activate various mechanisms, making ground appear, walls disappear and the like. And for those spots to activate, both totems need to be standing on them at the same time, which can later on be quite difficult because they will be in very different spots. So now these are the jump pads. Very simple level, basically just an introduction to the game. So the goal of each level is to reach this big totem with whatever amount of points in the top left that's shown. The points only matter to visual style, give you a different totem. If you collect less than 40 points, you get a lock totem, and the more points you collect, you get a better totem. Now we get into the meat of the game. We can swap our totem positions whenever we want with a single swap button, and each totem can only pass through their own color goo. When going down diagonal slopes, it's best to jump, because rolling down is slow and jumping off of them is pretty fast. Now, yeah, that's a good cycle for the enemy. Those tiny white enemies are called Seekers, and they want to kill you. You cannot touch them under any circumstances without a specific power-up that we'll be getting later on. And here's another slope, quick jump off. And a nice finish, because we're high up, we can just jump off the cliff and reach the ending zone on time. The category I'm running, any % journey. Journey refers to the campaign I'm running, and any % it makes differentiation between gold % and any %. So gold % would be collecting every single one of these white balls and not dying a single time in the level, but since this any % we can essentially ignore them and die as many times as we want, as long as we reach the goal as fast as possible. So coming up, there's a little trick. The game expects you to separate your totems and go, one goes up, one goes down. We were supposed to go under, but I died and the checkpoint has been triggered, so I have to take the casual path. The triangle here on the bottom is basically a minigame for an achievement. We don't care about the walls, so we skip. And here is one of the Kalimba's many falling sections. Oh, many, there's like 4 or 3. Basically, you have to react to your falling and don't fall into the wrong type of goo. The scary thing in, for example, gold % when falling is that you cannot go back if you miss a point, you just have to restart the level. And here's another level done. Starting 7 levels called the Underworld are extremely simple, very basic mechanics just to get you familiarized in the game. The reason I'm exiting out a bit of the menu backwards is because if you go straight to level select after you finish the level, you would have to watch an animation as the totem you got in that level falls into the totem ball, and that's slow and we don't want that. So yeah, this level just likes to put the activation pots next to each other. And you want to keep your totems fairly close for the most part. Here, I have to wait for the Seekers to wait the cycle, because only the purple totem can go up. Whoops. Okay. Another bit of a falling section, and I just missed the cycle because I missed a couple of jumps. I have to wait for a platform to come over. And back. Section, another booster pack section, you just kind of fall onto the boosters and you're good. So, right here you have to stack over and make double jumps to make sure the green totem and the purple totem only pass through their go, and yeah. This section, if we were to jump onto the booster pads instead of walk off of them, we would have to slow down and not hold right, which is slow, so it's best to jump off of them. Once again, backing off to the campaign select, quote unquote.
This was a strange cave with a strange floor, totally slippery like some sort of low friction material.
So yeah, this low friction material has a pretty silly time save. I'm jumping, and that is not because I want to do so. Each jump saves a frame. Pretty amazing. So, in this level, while on ice, you want to jump as much as possible to save the very tiny amounts of time that you can, but you're still saving time, and as long as you don't kill yourself doing that, it is a good idea. So coming up, there's going to be some boosters. One property of the jump booster things is that they like to pull you towards the middle if I didn't jump into my death. So if you go on the left or the right side of them, you gain a bit more speed, and now with fairly lenient jumps, we maintain that extra speed to jump over an extra platform. So now the end of the level is coming up, and I want to have my last jump be from the ice, because once I double jump, the purple totem kept on spinning, and that gave him extra distance to reach the end of the level zone.
You know what it's like. You discover a strange orb and suddenly your whole world turns upside down.
Swapping here for a second, just enough to raise that previous platform up by the pot, and jumping over. And like you heard the narrator mention, there's going to be a strange orb that might turn our road upside down. So this is one of the power-ups I mentioned. This one changes the gravity for one of the totems, and since we can swap places of our totems, we can either have both totems go towards each other or opposite of each other right now, and the game is very well designed to familiarize you with this mechanic. One thing about swapping when the totems have different gravity, that some of the momentum before the swap is being kept, so I tend to try to swap when the totems bounce off of each other to keep the momentum consistent. Here's just a tiny part just to skip over some bigger seekers and get past them. This part, you're supposed to be bouncing off of each other and avoiding the enemies, but the enemies almost never are in your path because the bounce is fairly big. Grab the power up again and the gravity returns to normal, and the level is done. once you die, there's an extra time loss of having your points getting deducted, so that's an extra incentive to avoid death.
It was as if the game was now more than just a straight-up platform.
So, the game keeps on building on its complexity little by little. Right now, you can probably notice the momentum change, that the direction of my gravity doesn't instantly change, it keeps some of the previous momentum over. So, getting both of these totems up. And there's going to be a tiny bit of a floating section. You just have to avoid all these enemies. Have to wait a bit here and just run away quickly from these. And you can just jump over just barely over those and float around without touching the platforms like I did. Okay, I'm just trying to do fancy stuff. I should do simple stuff. So yeah, once again, swap into the green totem, reset his gravity vector, and go back into the next section. So, I need to stand on this platform to just barely be able to touch the power-up, so the gravities change again, and the totems are going in the same direction. This time I'm actually going to use the platform so I don't kill myself accidentally. And this is the end of this level. So this time I'm going to get a log totem since I didn't manage to get the 40 points. So yeah, the fist smashes it and you just get a log.
One time she ran into a giant snake.
Sestain donated $5. I. Yeah, you. I've been doing this for 10 stinking years. Back and forward, and I'm sick of it. Well, I'm not gonna do it no more.
So, what I just did, there is a checkpoint to trigger right before a cutscene trigger. So I entered the checkpoint and then killed myself to skip a cutscene trigger, and in this level, there's supposed to be a boss chasing me, but we skipped the trigger and we're just kind of walking until like a power-up where the boss will suddenly reappear way closer than usual. But yeah, we can just jump around, and here is the power-up, and the snake is going to be appear now. Usually the snake is way further away than this, but I know the kind of view the snake would spit, so I can just swap every single time and be ready for it. So this boss fight, as boss fights often are in speed games, is kind of a pushover. He always goes in 3 attacks. First a tail swipe, then some goo spit, and then he charges at us, and we have to hit the orange spots like the narrator has previously said, and accidentally touch the black goo, which is not a good idea, so you can hear a bit more of a screeching snake, and the cycle resets. So yeah, once again, a little bit of goo. That's what I get for making fun of a boss, calling it so simple, and just dying on the first phase. Okay, so you have to hit these 3 or rather 6 orange spots 3 times. So, because this is phase 2, obviously there's going to be 2 tail swipes, because why wouldn't there be? And a bit more varied goo spitting variation. Well, still not very difficult. And the charge attack is the same. And here's the 3rd phase, as it's classic, 3 is the magic number for boss phases. Unexpectedly, 3 tail swipes. There's no music in this level because the trigger for music is the trigger for the cutscene which we skipped, so just have to do the sound effects of the game for now. So here we go, another charge, and we're going to be done with the Underworld, and a tiny bit more complex levels are going to be coming up, as this was basically the tutorial world, quote unquote. And here's another lock totem.
Middle world. It sounded familiar and comforting, though it was anything but. The good shaman had never been so far from her village.
Right, so middle world. I have to bait over the Seeker so I can take the jump pad as soon as possible. This level's gimmick is that you have to stick on the pots, charge up the ground, so to speak. You cannot just instantly walk off of them, you have to stand on them as little as possible, but not too little, so you wouldn't fall into your death. There's going to be a bunch of enemies chasing me all over this road, but almost none of them are anything spooky. So right here I am jumping off and rolling over, because rolling down is extremely slow. So you just jump off and come back to get the horizontal distance afterwards. Once again, baiting some enemies into the goo so we can go around them. And here's our lovely gravity power-up. Complexity up. So, this is basically going to be a floating section coming up, where there's literally no ground. The only ground is the other totem, and there's a bunch of enemies, so you have to swap your totems at the right times to avoid them. It is fairly simple when you're not trying to collect all the points, but when you would be trying to collect all the collectibles, it can be quite a pain. There. Grizzly Rodent is done.
She was about to experience the spirit cannons, and they were about to become like one of her favorite things.
So, the spirit cannons basically shoot out the correct color totem for quite a distance. In this space specifically, you can see a red pot top right. There is a tiny secret with an achievement there. You have to bounce your totems one to each other to actually reach it. Oops, bad timing right there by me. And I should remember to swap my totems. Okay. I promise I have this time. So you have to wait for both totems to load. Fall, I mean. In this part, enemies are basically a decoration. I have never been hit by the enemy there. Just kind of fly past them. So in every cannon section, so to speak, the most important part is when the second totem enters, because you always have to wait for it. So, yeah, like here. Sorry. I kind of missed the cycle. And catching your totem midair saves just a tiny bit of time, where your totem is flailing around in the air, rolling, and that's it. So, coming up into the last section of this level, it's basically just quickly swapping the totem so both of them can pass through the red goop. And here we are. The walk of triumph towards our totem. Snaky face. I mean, it is kind of a snaky face. Too bad it's a log.
This world had new and different ability orbs. See? Red, with a bear on it.
The bear power-up makes us bigger, makes our jumps higher, and makes us be able to kill small enemies. And you can only activate the big bots with the big totem. So a neat thing to do with the big totem is to do a big jump with him, swap over him to the top, and do another big jump for a big double jump. Fortunately, the big totem is not invincible and can still very much die to wrongly colored goo. So, coming up here is some breakable ground. Because we're big, we can smash it. But we don't want to jump high, so we just use our little totem's jump, and if we swap before the apex of the jump, you can swap back to the big totem, and the game just accepts that you're trying to crush the ground with the big totem. And the annoying part right here is that Seeker is going to run away from me, and now I have to wait, since I need to bring my little totem into the little hole. and the little totem would have died from that seeker. So once again, a similar concept. Big totem needs to kill the seeker, so the little totem can crawl into a hole and activate some pots. I have to wait for the seeker cycle to just pass them, using the big totem's 1 jump to, instead of little totem's 2 jumps. And here's another piece of breakable ground where you just jump with a little totem and swap right away to break it. Once again, activate the pot, little totem, jump, big totem, crush. Go for red goo, and I need to vary my jump height, because if I were to jump in the last jump right there, I would have died because I would have been jumping into the black goo. So, we're nearing the halfway mark of the levels, not really the halfway mark of the run, because later levels are far more complex, far more death prone.
It was getting really tall, she thought.
So there's a tiny secret down there, where you would think there's no exit, but there was actually a tiny bit of a gap in the black goo to reach the purple triangle down there. Everything in this game is nice, triangular, or other shapey. It is a very consistent art style, but mostly triangles. Triangles are good. So, now both of our totems have the gravity power-up, and we're just going to be falling upwards. So, fairly simple falling section. Like I said, this game kinda likes them. And they can definitely catch you off guard if you're playing casually. So, now it's bigger guys on ice. Big totems, I should say. Since their jump is so big, it's kinda hard to get a lot of jumps in to get that 1 frame time saver that you get from jumping on ice. Here, instead of going to the right to gain momentum, you can just barely jump up to the ice platform that you want to. And just to save a little bit of time, you catch your totem midair and go on to the next section, which is more ice, which is basically an auto-scroller. You're holding right and avoiding all the wrong types of goo. Jumping down here to grab the power-up of gravity. Playing casually, it was kind of hard to get these points, but we just swap and jump. And bounce off of each other, ignore the points you could gather but are dangerous and you could kill. And time to power down our totem to slide over towards the finishing zone, using our big totem jumps to clear the huge gaps, and the big totem to kill our seekers. Getting in 1 extra cheeky jump for the 1 frame. And that's Kali.
Why all the enemies, the shaman wondered? Did they have a purpose beyond chasing her around?
Nope, the enemies do not have any other purpose, rather, and they just want to chase around us and kill us. A neat little trick, since the totems don't go towards the middle of the screen but towards each other, you can jump up with the big totem jump and kind of ignore that section. This part is if you want to get a gold totem. We don't want that, we just want to go fast, so we completely ignore that. Here we need to line both of our totems up and grab our new power-ups. Put our red totem there. Power down to get them over both the red cube, and here is another one of the falling sections. Hope you like them, since there's plenty. This one's basically simple, the points are indicating where you need to go. And then for the other totem you just go the opposite. Oops. I did not mean to press switch, I meant to press jump. The big totem jump lets us clear the blue goop. Now just wait for him to get up and depower our totem to be able to squeeze through the gap and enter the end of the level. Yep, that was Grimy Gator. And he's now a log. It's like 50% of the levels are going to be logs. That's just the way it is.
The further the shaman lady traveled, the more she could sense her evil counterpart's presence.
So, as I said in the beginning, the story of this game is basically trying to chase down the evil shaman and get our rightful place back, basically. But yeah, the evil shaman hired a lot of enemies as I missed my power-up to kill us. Here, since what I'm trying to do, since the enemies cannot kill the big totem, they kind of ignore it, and I try to set them up in a correct spot so I wouldn't have to wait there, but unfortunately I didn't quite manage to set them up in those spots. Oops. Okay, nice jump me. The nice thing about this game is all the checkpoints, even if you mess up completely, you can just go back right in and there's no problem. Bunch of tiny little bit of improvements, double jumping with the big totem to walk with the red, and here's another double big totem double jump to reach the way up high activation pot. So this part introduced some tricky jumps for the totems, so the big gap can be crossed by the big totem, and here you need to start the jump with the big totem and then with a small one, and vice versa for the other side. Okay, bring up the totem up, killing the enemies, activating the pot, and just trying to reconnect our lovely totems back together for a neat off-screen finish to the level. I could activate the pot up top there, but that would be slow, and we can just kind of just go right and abandon one of our guys. Hit one of the activation pots. 1, 2, 3. Once we gather those 3 pots, we can swap back to our main big boy jumping totem and jump straight to the finish line.
Some enemies are just too big to kill. Take Hobert's advice in those situations. Run away. Run far away.
As the narrator indicated, this level is purely running away for your dear life from all the enemies that are all the way around us. Right, in this section we want to stack up to reach the next spirit cannon a bit faster, and when you're bored you can just keep swapping and blurring your totems out into just a mess of dusty colors. With a precise jump you can just barely get your both totems up in a single go, grab the power up and carry the little guy through. There's another secret top left. There's like these tiny platforms that pretend to be branches. You can actually climb on them. So here's are the big enemies that the narrator mentioned, and there's no way you can kill them, but they're not really threatening. Big, but slow. Now a slightly annoying part, you cannot completely hold right the entire time, you just kind of have to wait in place and fall a bit. So, big enemy chasing us from behind and a bunch of small enemies acting as obstacles. Platforms are pretty tight, but there's always somewhere you can jump on. Now, at times I'm jumping with my small totem, because sometimes I need a smaller jump to keep holding right, sometimes I just need a bigger one. Okay. Once again, small jump, big jump, big jump. Through here we need to separate our totems. Usually if you just press space and hold right, the totem just ends up at the top, but sometimes this happens. So you have to wait a couple of seconds and waste a few bounces, but that's okay. So, as always, we care about the second totem coming in, because the first totem is just going to have to wait. And here's another falling section, hope you like them. Well, this is also a bit more of a chase. All the platforms here are crumbling, and there's big enemies chasing you. You don't have any time to slow down, so you just kinda have to go. Here you can skip a platform with a blue totem by just barely going up. Usually you could keep holding right and not stop there at the bottom on the tiny platforms, but I was just not right enough to do that. And that is Owlbear.
By Holbert's calculations, it's time for a boss fight right about now. Probably one where you'll have to size up.
Yep. Holbert's calculations are definitely correct. It is a boss fight, and another easy boss fight, unless I die, then it's not easy. Yeah, boss fights in this game are basically auto-scrollers where you wait for the weak spots to open while dodging their fairly well telegraphed attacks. It's time for fighting two angry totems. A 2-on-2. Yeah, they start with shooting up some dark static goo. And now you just have to carry one of your totems and stand at his head. When he gets mad, goes down, then goes up, and then shoots some goo at us. A tiny bit of tech in this part.
Anonymous donated $10.
Thank you for the $10. Like I was saying, a tiny bit of tech here is to keep the totem, the enemy totem I mean, as far down as possible, so he would go quicker down into his dark static goo. So now it's just a different color goo, but the same concept. Jump on his head, only the big totem can damage the bigger totems, I guess. And the same concept here, except this guy spits red goo. It's a tiny bit more complicated since you have to double jump to avoid that and not switch into the goo. That certainly helps as well. That's what I get for calling bosses easy. I'm going to die on each one at least once, huh? So yeah, one more I believe and we should be done. One more. No, yeah, good. I know how to count. So yeah, two more cycles. With the blue goo and with the red goo again. This time we have to damage both of the totems. So yeah, some seekers spawn. You technically don't have to kill them, but they're too much of a nuisance to just leave hanging around. So you just end their life. And the bigger totems get very mad at you and kind of a last desperation attack of the black goo, where you just have to go left and right, like 4 times in total. So 2 times left, 2 times right. And then we shoot you from both sides, but if you're standing in the middle, it literally doesn't matter. And yeah, now it's the same as the last cycle, just with red goo. Wait for the blue totem to be able to jump, and that is Leonmachar. That's one of the level of names I actually remember. And now we're going into the upper world.
Upper world? ethereal beauty. It seemed to be in the process of dissolving.
So here's another new power-up, which makes one of your totems not move, which would make you think this makes the game easier, but boy, how wrong would you be. Not only it freezes one of the totems, if we're stacked together, it allows us to flow down, albeit very slowly. And we don't like floating down slowly, so we just kind of walk off to nearly our deaths, and then swap over and do the same again. And I'm lacking just a bit of height here, so yeah, slowly float over, and since floating is slow, you just fall. Oh, that's goo. Probably shouldn't have done that. Try to be cool and fall all the way down at the same time, but that's completely unnecessary. I'm actually going to play this properly and safe. You can just fall a bit and then fall with the other one, so you actually see where you fall. So, we power down again, only to power up 5 steps later. We use our totem as a platform, and our job now is to transport our totem to the right. Stack them up, please. Game, okay, thank you. Having a little bit of trouble. And here's the action you're going to see a whole lot in the upper road is falling off of each other again and again and again. There's a secret to the right with a minigame, but we don't care about that. We just want to fall as far as we can. Oh hey, remember that time that we depowered for 5 seconds and then powered up again? Hopefully you liked it, because this is the exact same section. You just go over one piece of goo and you have a power up on the same totem again. So in this section is where the game actually kind of tries to teach you to fall off of each other, because you can't really make it without jumping off of your totem. But you know how to do that already, so we just kind of leave our enemies behind, and they're not even aggro to us anymore because we're so far away. One little fall again here, and we can reach our first upper world totem. 6 more levels to go, I think, if I can count. Probably. So yeah. Decaf Dogchild. The names can get wild.
Eagle wings! How totally totemy! Now the shaman can move one totem independently. A novel sensation after all that synchronous action.
Novel sensation, but doesn't make it any easier. So, if you were actually going to play the game, and if you were actually going for the gold percent, you would have to go all the way right, left, and stop at every gap there is. But we don't care about those, so we're just going to depower again and power up in 5 steps again. But with a different totem, so it's not as clunky. Didn't get a jump off that platform, doesn't really matter. Bad enemy cycle. And me being greedy. Yeah, I would just... You can just wait, and it's basically designed for you to wait a bit. Since then the lower totem is the eagle wing totem, you just don't lose any altitude. And here we are, back to falling, but not into enemies. Okay, maybe cut that a bit too close, but yeah, that was definitely a bit too close since I cannot make that jump anymore. Here we try to get as close as possible to the goo here, so we don't need to use the jump pad again. Since when you go from the floating state to the non-floating state, the momentum of not having momentum carries over. So you don't build up downward speed as fast as you would normally. And that allows you to cross bigger distances. Guard. Not entirely sure how to even pronounce that, but here's another log.
In this level, a new kind of enemy was waiting. the pink and yellow enemies. They were, well, they were pink and yellow.
Yep, pink and yellow enemies. They behave in the same way as the goo does. Only the correct color can pass them. The incorrect color dies. And there's going to be a bunch of them. The game expects you to have a bit of a larger distance between the totems, like this, but you can normally make it. You do good jumps and don't jump into the black goo. Okay, 1 second. Okay, I'm actually going to shut up for a second and actually do this easy section, because I swear it's not hard. I did it as casually as possible. Now we're through. Here we try to stack our totems back together for the next section, because we have big enemies that we have to boost our incorrect color totem over. Got a nice cycle, didn't have to wait in front of the goo for the enemies to pass. And in this section, if you're very good, you can swap just as you're exiting the goo. But I don't have that kind of reaction time, so I just died. So, coming up is one of my favorite sections in this level. I could stop dying. Okay, that's not gonna make the jump. Careful, careful. I like this section because you really have to pay attention to what's coming, not like what I just did right now, and just... if you're good enough, you can just keep holding right. But apparently I was not good enough, and here I panicked. So I'm just going to stack my totems back up by desynchronizing the jumps, by jumping when one totem can and then jumping back again, to make these platforms faster, because otherwise you would have to bring one totem to the right of the platform, one totem to the left, jump over to the next, repeat that again, and I should hold the speed up button. And that can get very tedious.
Her dark enemy was drawing.
Here is the worst level of the game. Everything, and I mean everything in this level, is on a cycle, and I'm going to miss a lot of those. Okay, got this. It's kinda nice. The level gimmicks is just cycles upon cycles upon cycles. I have this problem of just swapping into my death for no reason. Okay, now that it's off cycle, I just have to wait a bit for the correct platforms to line up and grab another Eagle Wing power-up and fall off of each other again. And since everything is off cycle, I will have to wait extra seconds in certain spaces. Here's going to be another instance of checkpoint abuse. That wasn't it, that was just me being bad. So yeah, we leave one totem behind, hit the checkpoint, die, and we get both of our totems back, even though only one of them hit the checkpoint. The game is just generous as that. Wait for these guys to move out your way and go towards the next section. Can I save this? No. If you go too low, you just face through the platforms, unfortunately. That is just me being greedy. So, just a bit of tiny jumps and flapping totems and we're through. Now, we need to separate our totems into different platforms to cross the big yellow goop wall. Okay, that wasn't it. Okay, I'm being a tiny bit impatient. There's literally no need to rush since I still need to stay on the platforms. Use our floatiness to grab the pot early so we could platform a bit better. Jump on these, wait for our platform to separate, and cross another big goop wall. I don't like this level, as I mentioned, because there's a whole lot of waiting and a whole lot of cycles. if you jump onto the platform where one of your totem would be on the platform and the other wouldn't be, the game would just separate you and you would most likely die. It's a bit more falling off. There's some more points to the left, but we don't care about that, so we just advance and wait for platforms to appear. With a very tight trick, you could bring both totems on a single platform, but that is super tight and I would be here stuck for like 10 minutes attempting it with no success. So I just take the easier route and just bring both my totems on the same platform, and I just barely caught my ride. Another instance of depowering one totem and powering up the other totem like 5 seconds later. Once again, having totems on different platforms to vary across various colors of goo, and here's another secret right up there. You could see a gap. So, bad level over. Okay, next up is a level which actually has out of bounds, if I remember correctly.
Take heed of Holbear. Pay attention to any items of color. They carry great meaning.
So, we'll finally get the chance to get back at the game for all the gravity shenanigans by using a gravity power-up to go out of bounds. It's right here at the start of the level. We grab it here. Have to play a tiny bit the game normally. Right now we just anchor one of the totems on the little bit of an enclave there. We have to wait for an enemy to come back here to pass through, and we ignore the power down and keep our messed up gravity if I don't walk into an enemy. This is one of those instances where you kinda have to pay attention to both of your totems, so those deaths can happen. Since usually I try to keep an eye on one totem and the other totem is usually perfectly fine, but in this case you kinda have to keep your eyes peeled for both. One more try. Yeah. Going to actually get it this time. This trick is not nearly as hard as I'm making it out to be as well. Okay, wait for this, and focus. Okay. So one of the totems is flying way off in the distance and we're putting another totem in a precarious position. You have to appear in a certain position to unlock the camera to see where you're going, but we're basically out of bounds. Oh god, this is weird. Okay. I stood around here because I needed to even out the two of my totems, which are arrows at the top and the bottom of my screen. Here's another screen lock. We have to fall at around here to unlock our screen. Go back a bit because there's some invisible walls that I still hit. Hello, okay. And now we're basically done with the trick. We're completely out of bounds and we're going to go right for about 30 seconds. One scary thing with this thing, if you go too close to inbounds, the camera is going to shift to the totem at the top, and you really do not want that because you're going to be finishing the level with the totem on the bottom. So you just kinda keep well clear of inbounds and just float over towards our goal. Oops. Okay, I got worried for a second that I missed something. I didn't. It's right here after these two extra branches. And we're going to go back in bounds with this jump pad. Avoid the enemies. If I were to die here, I would get sent back all the way back almost. And it would take quite a bit of time to go back up. So that was out of bounds number 1. In a couple of levels there will be out of bounds number 2. For now,
Kalimba hides 9 metaspace levels. To discover them all would be an achievement. Not like a cure for cancer achievement, but still.
Yeah, like Rehober alludes, there's an achievement for finding all the 9 secrets that some I've been pointing out during the run. And in this level, there's a lot of jumping off of each other. Who would have guessed? Have to reconnect your totems to be able to float over to the next section, fall a bit more to pass the yellow goop. And we're on to the next section. We're going to become big, and our jumps are going to become big. That's good and bad, because big jumps flow down very slowly. So you have to ration your jumps so you don't jump up when you don't need to, and then fall 5 centimeters a second. So, we use a big totem to open a path for, once again, the big totem to pass through, I guess. Here we fall off of each other, and there's some breakable ground right there that sometimes decides not to break, so we have to jump on it. Bring our 2 totems over while avoiding the picking enemy, and on to the next section, where we will have to do a big double jump to reach the bot, and swap over our totems, because the wall was appearing on the left and it would have crushed one of my totems that was there, so while the wall was forming I had to quickly move out of the way, and we bait over the enemy so far to the left that he just loses aggro on us. Another piece of breakable wall. Have to activate the bot right over there. Kinda a stealth mission. Just blending in with the pink enemy right there to activate it and float over to basically the end of the level. There's like a jump here and an off-screen here. So stop talking because I need to hear. So yeah. There's a big gap there where I jumped off where I didn't see it, but I was constantly swapping, because when you swap to the flying totem, your downwards momentum hits 0, and having constantly swapping that, you can cross larger distances. And this is auto bounce number 2. I need to just avoid, there's just enough space to avoid picking up power-ups like this. And now I need to focus once again. There we go. You have to cross your totems at the level of dark goo that, at the level of a dark goo line that was there. And now we're just falling upwards to the end of the level for roughly 30 to 45 seconds. There's not a lot to see here. The game is still textured a decent way out here, but yeah. The reason why we do this, even though for the most part we would still be falling upwards in the normal route, there are some puzzly parts that we skip that you can see right over here. Whoops, invisible floor I guess. There's some puzzly parts that we don't care about. And we're going to go back in bounds pretty soon. There's going to be a red hexagon and then a yellow hexagon. So yeah, the other totem is so far below us that nobody knows where he is. Negative 1000 coordinates or something. Yep, 0-point run. And we're moving on to the final level. Another pushover boss.
Of course there was a great bird-type boss in the end of Underworld. She wondered if it would be the final boss.
Spoilers, yes, it's going to be the final boss. So, as usual, the start of the boss levels kind of show just walking along as falling into the boss arena. And the evil shaman creates a derpy burb that wants to kill us. So, as per usual, 3 hits and the boss is going to be done. Once again, it's going to go down, become mad at us and get bumped on the head again. Now it's going to have a charge attack. That's not gonna help him either. Now he's dead. Or wait, he's not. The evil shaman comes back and revives the evil chicken again. So before we can battle the evil chicken for the second time, we have to clear all the secrets that are going to appear right now. So, just using our big totem in different spaces, we clear all out and our evil chicken is coming back. This time with an even weaker attack. For this part I have to jump on the tip of its beak, because if you jump in deeper he gets scared and runs away, but he doesn't recognize us if we're just on the tip of the beacon. Of the beak. That's 2 hits. And now there's a final chase sequence, after which it'll be time in like 30-ish seconds, I think. So, I'm separating my totems to different sides to bait seekers into different locations and to avoid the falling angry chicken. I put myself in a bad spot, but that's alright, the game is generous with checkpoints. So, we wait for the chicken to get past us and crash into the ground, and we will pop his head one last time, and that will be time. Soon-ish. Don't kill my totem, thank you. 3, 2, 1, time. So, that was Kalimba. Shoutouts to Sonic Screwdriver, Corner One and Devil Squirrel for helping me learn the game. If you're interested in running this game, speedrun.com/Kalimba, and there's a Discord link right there. And yeah, if you're interested, check it out. It's a good game even if you don't want to speedrun, but if you do, it's great.
The evil shaman was no more. Defeated by true spiritual courage and sent back to the place from whence he came.
Okay, so here's our glorious totem with about 50% wood.
Pretty, isn't it?
Truly.
All carved and totemy and tall.
Truly totemy. Just a bunch of logs. 100%! No!
Is what perfect spiritual
100% requires you to not die. Did you see the run? Yep.
Oh, Old Bear's tired now. Must rest. Leave me, human. Find your purpose as you were born to do.
And our purpose is to speedrun. So, great. There's like four campaigns. There's this journey that we played, there's the Dark Void, and there's the crazier co-op that you can play solo if you're crazy. Shout out to some people, wink wink. In the co-op campaign you control 4 totems with 2 different controller layouts. So if you have a brain capacity, good luck with that. If you don't, like me, you just play solo mode, or you bring a person to play co-op. But, yeah. So... in total there's like 8 categories, like I mentioned, 4 of the campaigns, and all of them have 2 variations of normal, any percent like I did now, and gold percent where you don't die and collect all the collectibles. In addition to that, there's IO for literally every level, so there's like 21 here, 10 in the Dark Void, 10 in the co-op campaign, 10 in the Dark Void co-op campaign, so there's 51 IOs as well. If you wish to try, it's fairly easy to pick up. There's also tasking tools. We have an auto splitter. Just go into live split, select Kalimba, and it activated. And there's a bunch of tools that you can use. That's exactly where you reset your saves, because it's fairly difficult to access the save location. I think it's somewhere in the registry, I don't remember. I just use the auto splitter, it's convenient. Just click new game. Or you could just press get all the totems and access all the levels to practice. Pull up a comp level? Sure.
Hello, player.